Hello, this is Lisa Lee, and welcome to this week's enrichment reading. So we have another ancestor message coming through, and it's an ancestor message that's sort of coming through on the spirit of touchstone. This is a touchstone, so we're kind of like touching base and hearing what they want to bring through, because we're moving into the territory of forgiveness, and we're also moving back into like the pantheon very much. And so before we do that, because there's a lot of energy that came through this week, a lot of like shifting that happened this week, and the result is like a level of just a little bit of disorientation. So with that, let's go ahead and see what our ascended ancestors want to bring through. One in particular, I'm feeling like an ancestor that is it's a masculine energy, very strong, very like there's something shapeshiftery about it, but it's also like a strong, like helpful, loving sort of energy. So let's see what it says. Look at our card, presence of ancestor, the ancient ones. So our opening card with this ancestor reading is the presence of ancestors, the ancient ones. And there's such an encouragement in that, because, you know, I sat down to do this reading after doing this week was like a lot of hard work for me in terms of, it was just like spiritual heavy lifting. And so when I sat under this, look at the under tree taking root in the other world, when I sat to do this reading, I was kind of talking to my guides, and I know the territory that we're moving into, and I see the mountain in front of us, and it was very daunting. And they said, you know, let's just touch base. Let's everybody touch base. Let's everybody like step into communion and touch base, and let's hear from our ancestors. Let's gather around and listen to what they want to say, because they are here to support us, and they're here to, I'm just listening real fast. This guy is saying for you to like rest into this reading. So for us to enter into like a restful place and be in the presence of our ancestors, the ancient ones, and hear what it is that they want to bring through. And on kind of a personal level too, I'm hearing, I think the music might be a little bit loud. I'm gonna just go ahead and get that to go down. I get like so mad at myself when I forget stuff like this, but then I realize it can't possibly matter that much. In the grand scheme of things, if the music is a little loud in the beginning. So the presence of the ancestors, the ancient ones being with us, there is kind of like a call to be at ease. That this is a time of reflection where they're wanting to kind of mirror back and just sort of let us know what they see about where we are. And what it means to sort of be embarking on this new direction. So let's go ahead and get a card. We have the death cards. So they see you in a life and death transformation kind of a moment. Oh my gosh. look at this. So I can't even begin to like tell you how beautiful this array of cards is. For the death card to be, for the death, the fool, and justice to come out in relationship to this Hierophant, it's your guides are coming through to say, we have a commitment to you. We are imparting within you like they're helping you build the structure of your life. And so this is not so grandiose. Like this is really like talking about like the actual structure of your life. And they're bringing in a level of holiness. They want to like honor your process and what you've been through and where you are right now in this life and death place. So the first thing that your ancestors want you to know is that you should be a lot easier on yourself, that like you've gone through it, and that the life and death kind of transformation place that you find yourself, you have been, like I'm seeing butterflies. And so this notion of like having seen a lot of butterflies, understanding that you have been in the midst of like, this is, yeah, there's a shift that's taken place here that's really, really massive. And so your guides want to encourage you to continue to take this path and this leap of faith forward. There is justice coming in. So the justice card is showing up there does indicate an injustice. And so I think I want to speak to whatever that might be, because taking root in the other world, this is a a call to almost kind of like a commitment to yourself in terms of your spirituality being an aspect that you get nourishment from, like legitimate nourishment in the way of all sorts of like resources. And so the Hierophant here being about institutions, yes, but in this particular moment, like it's almost like the temple, you know, I'm seeing like the temple, and I'm seeing your body as a temple, your life as a temple. They're wanting to help with this. And they want you to know that they are absolutely supporting you. So if you've been feeling unsupported, they're coming to say, like, we want to correct that. We want to tell you that we really are supporting you. I always get the squeaky chair every single time. I have to like put a sign up on my wall that says, don't sit in the squeaky chair, move it. So let's go ahead and get some cards here. You know, the presence of the Justice card does indicate an injustice. And I guess, yeah, they're saying we do want to talk to you about this. This is part of like the touchstone, part of this transformation, and part of the love that they feel for you is to get into this notion of like the injustice that they're witnessing or have witnessed in your life. 7 of Wands and the 8 of Cups. Ooh, so like having to walk away from things that you emotionally invested in and having to defend yourself. Yeah. That's bad. Hierophant here again, and this is something to do with a institution, right? So having to walk away from something that you put a lot of emotional investment in would be something like, you know, the investment that you put into the idea that like church was good, the investment that you put in the idea that that the country, that the state is good, the investment that you have in all of the like sort of big things, like all of those things really failing at an astronomical level. Yeah, even institutions of marriage, I hear, is like Spirit is saying like this is a lot. And that these cards didn't even shuffle out, they kind of jumped out of the middle. So but the guides are saying, coming in to say like, but we are planning to move forward. We're planning to move you forward. And you should be planning on moving forward. And let's talk about what it means to be moving forward, because that's where the Justice comes in. The Justice doesn't come in from looking in the past. It doesn't come in by way of like, you know, the retrospective. The Justice is coming in as you move forward. So like your guides are saying, like every step you take, we take that step. Yeah, your guides are saying every step that you take forward, we will compensate. Every single step that you take forward, we will compensate. And your guides are saying, and sometimes you have to take 2 steps forward, you know, before that compensation is really kind of experienced. But that's just because your guides are like, we have to coax you out. You know, we really have to, your guides are saying, you know, there's a lot there. There's a lot of feeling like they're saying you're never falling short. You're not falling short, and that's not what this is about. There's no condemnation in what they're bringing towards you, because that Death card and the presence of the Ancient Ones and the Fool tells me that they're very well aware of the losses, the obstacles, the pain, the confusion, the overwhelm, and just even having to manage like aspects of the body. And so they are coming to say that they are, that they're with us through this transformation. And so there's no such thing as falling short, but there is wanting to really attend to this notion of planning our way forward. Okay, so let's jump in. Let's jump in. It's a nice, cozy energy. It's kind of like a lullaby sort of energy. And there's a lot of support here from your ancestors. They want you to know that like, they have been with you. They're showing me somebody in labor, and they're saying like, we've been with you through the duration of this labor. And they're saying that we're going to continue to be with you for the duration of this labor. And so they're showing me like family attending a woman in labor, and they're saying like, we're attending you at every breath, and they really want you to know that. And they want you to know that they understand that this is confusing, and that they understand that this is difficult, and that they are your witness. Whew. So with the Four of Wands being about completion, it's also about coming into union, but more importantly, it's related to union with this 7th house of relating and partnerships. And so I kind of want to talk about that. So this death and transformation that you're going through right now is pulling you into better relatedness and better relating and readiness for a relationship. And with the Capricorn on the bottom of the deck here, it's important that you understand that the period of your life that you're in right now and the kind of structuring that's going on right now is very much preparing you with this Two of Wands for a relationship. Now that relationship doesn't have to be like marriage. It can be, this is partners, companionship, best friends, marriage, relationships. It's even opposition and equilibrium in a certain way, because there's this like growth through communing and communicating and in communion with another. And so, and the Four of Wands can be about union, and right here it really is about coming into union. So your ancestors want to like almost say that, like, you know, when they're talking about wanting to bring this notion of hope to you, when they want to sort of deliver hope, when they want to introduce hope, what they're saying is, I want for you to see the possibility that like where we're steering you and where we want to bring you is in relationship, in partnership, to grow in commune in like in communing, and almost like very deeply too, not like surface. But the Devil card here and the Leo, this is where we see like, we're going to come back to this. I think we're going to focus on this a little bit. I just sort of want to like jump through like the trajectory of what they're talking about, and then I'll come back to like the nitty gritty. Because this reading is less about like global issues. It's less about like big issues. This is really talking about like a capacity for intimacy. Like intimacy is needed, and your guys want to bring you into greater levels of intimacy in your life. Even like groups of people that you can be like really open and like feel connected with and safe with and supported by. But there's a lot here, you know, like there's a lot here going on. So with the Devil card in Leo, this is kind of like saying like there's something in the way of like possession over the way that you show up. This Leo is how you shine, like the way that you perceive yourself, the way that you, expressive, creative, loving, playful, warm, overt, self-confident, flirtatious, glowing, the way that you show up. There's some kind of like, you know, aspect of enslavement over how you show up in life. Okay, I actually like cut that off because I felt like literally I felt the channel kind of like drop off or shut down. And so I sort of like, I was going to stop and do something else. I was going to kind of like try to pick up in a different reading, but the ancestors were like, no, you got to like try and bring this through. Even if it looks like there's a brick in front of it, you can push it through. So like whatever I'm looking at in the way of like resistance here, which, you know, this is this Devil card. The Devil card is like, there's a lot of resistance around this notion of what it means for you to show up in the world, what it means for you to be received in the world. And this Queen of Wands is this Leo energy. And the idealist here is about like a harmonious and corroborative balance, socially aware, artistic kind of a vibe with this otherwise like glowing and vivacious energy. And so there's a sophistication that like you're like a maturity that's kind of happening here with the Devil card and the Leo, like, and this Queen of Wands and the Libra. But you're struggling, and so that's kind of what we have with the Devil card, is like the struggle about you showing up as your most authentic, happy self, and like what it means for that to really happen for you, what it means for you not to be phobic about getting close to people, with this Four of Wands and that 7th house of relating, because this transformation for you and this new beginning and this justice comes in on the axis of a Four of Wands in the 7th house of relating. A union. And with the Lovers in the 3rd house of perception here, I actually do think that this is about you coming into yourself, not really as like in a relationship so much as like in position in the world. And with the King of Wands and allowing, like you have a beautiful fate You have a beautiful destiny. You know you have a beautiful faith. You know you have a beautiful destiny. You feel that. But the opposition here that exists in the way of like this tyrannical, the enslaved woman and the enslaved man, if you see the little blurbs right here underneath the devil, these two energies that like have like an enslaving kind of a effect on the way you show up, and if you even show up in the world. So let's look at that. Let's take a look at that. Let's get cards on it, because what I see here in the way of the Hierophant, in the way of like institutions, in the way of the world, it's actually like I'm seeing it much more be about like the temple that is your body, and the temple that is the life that you create around that body, than a more like institutional institution. I don't know why it's coming through that way, but it's almost your guides are kind of saying the structure of your life itself, the structure of your life and the structure of your life's destiny, like is something that you really fight against. You really hate it. You feel like you did something wrong or you failed somehow to have been in a position where you now are experiencing life from the vantage point and the position that you are. There's a lot of self-condemnation there with the devil. And that fear of like being seen is tremendous. That's what the devil card over the Leo is. And so, let me just scooch that so that's a little bit better. So when we jump back in this Queen of Wands and this Libra here, like let's take a look. Let's get into this a little bit more. Let's get more cards on this. And this is a distraction. Like this force is like the force of a distracting energy that, it's funny because like it operates. Yeah, that's really weird. It's like there's something here that's just trying to distract you from ever really like fully standing in your power and your glory, really. Something, yeah, let's take a look. That Seven of Wands is like, yeah, putting you on the defensive. And that Three of Pentacles is about building something like and powerful. And that Eight of Cups is walking away. And that World is a new chapter with that Queen of Pentacles, so with you being established. And that Queen of Swords and this Queen of Pentacles is coming into like a mental clarity and control over your like mental sort of like control over your mind, but like not control like it's like dominion, you know, but it's more like mastery. So mastery over your thoughts, mastery over your mind, a mastery of the way that you perceive things. And the Queen of Pentacles is like you being established in your life in a comfortable, like provided for, abundant way. Position. It's even like a place of position. And so here we're like keeping you on the defensive related to something here that was built. And we'll look at that in a second. And something that you had to have like you put a lot of emotional investment in and walked away from. This World card is about a new chapter here. But like in terms of like what it means for you to feel like you can establish yourself, there seems to be some kind of a war going on. And so we're going to take a look and see what that means. I want to get more clarity on this Three of Pentacles here. Because the devil keeps you on the defensive. The devil uses the tactic of the defense distraction. And so what is it that has you on the defensive so much about who you are, how you show up in the world, how people react to you? Because that's going to keep you in a horrible trap. And so your guides are coming to say, like, you know, how do we see you right now? We see you as going through a major transformation. We see it as being like excruciatingly difficult and painful. We see you as taking a leap of faith in a new direction and receiving justice. But we also see you as being, there's a trap here that they want to address. You've gotten to a place where you're ready to kind of step into community and communion and relationship with others. It's like the hermit phase is sort of over, but there's some kind of like real stranglehold over your fear of being perceived, your fear of holding power. So let's take a look. With that Strength card here, it's a strong issue, something that really does need to be tamed. So what does it mean for you to step out of a defensive posture? What does it mean for you to consider yourself safe, really? And so let's see this is kind of hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's something about the energy of this week, and there's something about this energy in particular yesterday and today that is like especially challenging. It's very like potent and powerful for transformation, but it's also very like obscure. It's hard to see like what the defense is really about here with this Seven of Cups. because the tyranny over how you show up in life is going to in some ways have relationships and echoes to your past, like ways in which you've shown up authentically and gotten like knocked down. And you know, if you show up with like, you know, a lot of enthusiasm or a lot of energy, like think of like, you know, the kids that kind of bounce off the walls a little bit. There can be a way where like that like kind of like potency of like being alive and excited on you doesn't necessarily like it doesn't jive with like a coherent social structure all the time. Like that's kind of, I'm seeing something to the effect of like, this is something that may have like really affected the way that you feel about yourself, or cause some confusion about your actual value, the way that people actually perceive you, the way that people actually love you. And so there's this way in which you feel like you have to show up in a kind of with that Leo energy, almost like a performative quality to the way that you, yeah, this is a shadow aspect. This shadow aspect is something that has developed like a desire to kind of almost like perform through you as the way that you show up in the world. And there is a fight for how you show up in the world, like in this. And that's kind of like where there's a defense and a distraction. There's some kind of a manipulation at play. And so what we're seeing here with the Strength card and that Seven of Cups is that, yeah, let's take a look at that, because it's showing up in the light attribute, which means that you're not like delusional or anything like that. This is related to your giftedness. This is something that you have in the way. Oh yeah. So Spirit is saying like this is something that you have in the way of giftedness. It's a magical quality. It's an aspect of your magic. So it's an aspect of your magic that's almost like shapeshiftery, but like in a way that like isn't able to echo. So there's this coping skill called echoing. So Spirit is showing me a coping skill called echoing, where it's not just that you're compliant, it's that you can echo the person's like whole self. You can kind of shapeshift into their energy. So from an energetic standpoint, this is probably not for everybody. Just take what resonates and put aside what doesn't, because it's very specific. From a magic quality and discovering our magic qualities, sometimes will happen upon a type of magic that needs taming. And so this is a type of magic that your guides want to bring in information that you need to tame. So when we think about shapeshifters and we think about what a shapeshifter is and like shape-shifting magic and unlocking our magic, what shapeshifting is it's not something that's done so much physically as it is done energetically. And for those of you that are very adept at shape-shifting magic, there's a form of that magic which is to mimic, like exactly, shapeshift exactly, mimic exactly the energy of another. And in that movement, you're reading their energy, but you're also holding it. And so that's a type of magic, but it's also preventing you from some kind of evolution. You're getting stuck at that magic. So that magic is a type of magic, and that type of magic has its own kind of persona or quality. It has its own sort of it's a utility. It's like something you step into, something you hold and you make use of. But if you get stuck with it, it has a way of like keeping you from ever getting true nourishment. And so when we're opening these doors and we're happening upon our magic and we're unlocking certain things, it's important to see that like this trap in terms of like your self-concept and what it is for you to get nourished in an interaction means that you are having an interaction with someone as yourself, not in that echoing capacity. So a lot of times like a magic, something that's good, something that's powerful, it's a superpower, we can use it against ourselves and deplete ourselves of all nourishment. And so to keep yourself safe from like, you know, terrifying incidents or unsafe environments or unsafe people, or, you know, just even cycles of rejection and misunderstanding, because I see that a lot. This collective, there are a lot of neurodivergent people in this collective, but there's also a lot of psychic people in this collective, which is another neurodivergence. And what that means is misunderstood a lot of the time, because your natural like sense of justice, your natural sense of enthusiasm, your natural sense of intimacy is not going to be coherent in the dominant system. What do I mean by that? I just mean that like it's all the stuff that like falls into the category of where people look at you and think you're weird because you're not compliant. You're not like everybody else. You have a difference. There's a flair. Let me just catch the channel because this is hard to get to. So this idea of a magic that is an echo, but it can take over and it can keep you concealed from all relationships and all interactions. And what you want to do is have that magic when you want it, but it doesn't control you, and you have to see what it is and you have to know its name in order to dethrone it and dethrone its influence on you. So when you show up in the world, you're showing up like centered as yourself, and you're not showing up scared and in the capacity of an echo that keeps you depleted and having to show up for somebody else, constantly showing up for somebody else, constantly showing up for somebody else, constantly showing up for somebody else. And this can even look like feeling someone else's shit about you and what they're thinking about you and what you're doing right now and what you should be doing, and they're asking you to echo them. Echo me, echo me, echo me. And that's very destructive too. Okay, so that's because that's somebody who wants to feel complete with your energy and can't feel complete without like some like interaction and or like access to that echoing. And so there's a difference between like needing a level of validation and needing echoing. And so like you have to think about like this magic is a magic that affects people. It has an alchemical way of like reacting with other people that they can become addicted, because once you're echoing someone, you're doubling their power. And so the same can be said for like spirits that you're working with too. So this is information that like does sound scary, and I don't want you to be scared, because when we are unlocking our magic and when we're getting into this territory, this is stuff that people do all the time, just without intention and without knowing. And so when we unlock this magic and we get a little closer, you know, we're just bringing in the intention of the knowing, and that the behavior of echoing, which is a type of magic that you employ, can also like it's a cloak. It's a cloak of invisibility, but you're also emptying yourself out for something that would want to maybe like take the reins and experience the life that's your life to experience. And so what it means to sort of step into taming this by seeing it clearly and understanding the options that you have in terms of like what you have to build your life with. The first thing that you want to do is employ a defense against anything that is going to take you out of your authentic expression and your authentic expression of yourself. And there are demands that will do that. And there are also like systems of coherence, you know, social systems of, for instance, we're in a social system of coherence around the notion of dishonest harmony. Dishonest harmony. We keep the harmony by being dishonest with each other. We work together by leveling like levels of dishonesty, because what dishonest harmony does is force us to comply, right? And in that compliance, there are people who are better at complying and people who are worse at complying. And that is the absolute nature of hierarchy. Those that are better at complying do well. Those that are worse at complying have to come under the dominion of those that are better at complying. And that's how the order is, like, that's the system at play that is disastrous. But what we see here in terms of like this transformation happening for you, with you, and planning your way forward, and what it means to have a better relationship with structure. Because you had an abusive relationship with structure, and having abusive relationship with structure and then needing structure in order to build a life that's going to support you, and then not feeling adequate for that because structure is traumatizing. Like, this is where that there's like a wound of like inadequacy and abandonment that comes in. And this echoing can begin from like that woundedness. So when we feel inadequate, what we do is we echo, because if we're not feeling adequate, then we need somebody else who is adequate to like echo, so that we can kind of take some of that strength and walk with it a little while. And so that's also another way that like that magic of echoing can kind of like not do us a little bit of dirty. And so these aren't like scary things. They're just like these slight maladaptions that can happen if you're a magical creature. If you're not a magical creature, there are other things, you know, other ways of adapting. But if you are a magical creature and you do have a strain of magic that is this shape-shifting ability, that is a way of reading people as well. Like, it's a part of the way that the work can work in the right context. It's part of your giftedness. You want this giftedness, but you also want to have really good boundaries around your giftedness, not let your giftedness be your personality or take over your life or drive the car, because that's like it's an aspect. And as an aspect, it has kind of a personality. And as kind of having a personality, you don't want that to, there's just like a dominion that you can take over this. That's really very simple. Because it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just kind of like Spirit is bringing it through to say, like, I do want to show you this. I do kind of want to talk to you about this. So the ancestors are saying you inherited this gift. They want you to put down this defending yourself at all time, because that's designed to confuse you. And if you're on the defensive, then you're seeking your defensive tools. And one of your defensive tools is shape-shifting. And if shape-shifting has kind of the better of you, then you don't ever find your own shape. And so that's what this Libra and the Queen of Wands is. This is about instituting structures of minutia that support you in a way that is like reflecting back to you. Like that you are somebody who has a certain way of being in the world, and that all of the structures around you report back to you that you are you. And so you have a certain way of brushing your teeth, a certain way of getting dressed, a certain way of wanting to show up in the world, a certain way of like bringing intention. All of this stuff, like the more informed you are about like the way that you want to embody and embolden yourself in your purpose of creating your life, the less other things kind of like other magics kind of get the better of you. And so it is a lot of like self-love. And what it means to have self-love is to identify like, this is a superpower that I want to like rejigger it so it's not working against me. And it's something that you have to have a relationship with because it's a part of you, but it's something that you should have a good relationship with, not something you're fighting with yourself about. And so when it comes to this capacity for echoing, your guides are saying, like, you know, really work on centering yourself, bringing yourself into your central channel, breathing deeply into that central channel, breathing deeply into the part of yourself where you find yourself in your body, like spending time in that energy and then speaking to your guides from that energy instead of diverting into the energy of another space and another vibe, and then reading it and then finding yourself sort of like almost like where it's like sitting on your lap or something. Like it's a little bit uncomfortable. And so the way that you just kind of move that around with that Queen of Wands is get really creative and think about what it means to sort of bring a cooperative, balanced, sort of artistic, all the aspects of yourself. You're in charge of the aspects and bringing them into some level of integration. And the way that you drive that car, you know, that's like you from an empowered place. But, you know, we kind of started this reading with this injustice, and your guides are saying like the injustice is there was no infrastructure around this gift, and that you actually have like an overdeveloped gift in this area, but underdeveloped gifts in other areas. And so let's get some cards on like this Libra here, and like even this relationship to this Capricorn card and the Two of Wands, planning your way forward and getting some level of rootedness so that you can be established in this world and have dominion over, like, you know, your mind is so brilliant that you want to put it to work for you and not constant. It's almost like you like bleed a lot of energy in a lot of different ways, and it's easy for you to give. And so there's something here about you need a structure. And they're saying like, you know, building your life is a hard, difficult like thing, and you have had to walk away from like life's work, like the work of your life, your life's work. You've had to walk away from your life's work before, or on some level. Everything that you've built up to this point or a certain point, you've had to walk away from it. That's what we have here with the Eight of Cups and that Three of Pentacles. And so, you know, you have this defense almost against starting a new life because you had to walk away from your old life. And there's a default to kind of like almost, where like magical abilities can become a little bit of a, like a default where that gets overdeveloped and other things don't get developed. So let's take a look and see what it means to bring in some new development here. So you have got like the Ace of Wands and the Ace of Cups, which means your guides are really excited for where you're going. They want you to be excited for where you're going too. It's really important for them. You're this King of Cups and this Queen of Cups here. So there is this, this is beautiful. So they're saying like part of what it is for you to build the minutia of your life is to begin to dream about what you want again, because dreaming about what you want is the first step in getting where you want to go. First, you have to kind of have a vision, kind of have a sense of like, I want to go in this direction and I want my life to look in that way. And I want to have all of these different things. That's like the inspiration and the desire, and where the desire like leads you into union, into partnership, into community, into like relationship. Your guides are saying we need to like lead you into a relationship. And so, you know, this devil card that has a, you know, a lot of control over the way that you show up keeps you from showing up all the way. Keeps you from even like a self-awareness of your own value. And so what we have here with the stepping into taking dominion with like over those things that are valuable about you, beautiful about you, that you want to be, not how people respond to you and how you need to respond to them, but rather how you want to be, and who cares what people respond. It's a total different approach. It's not, I want to be perceived in this way, I want to be perceived in that way, and I want to be perceived in that way. It's, I am this way. And like, that's where I'm starting. And so getting clear on that and getting clear on like, you know, building a life around the things that you desire is first embodying those desires, or allowing those desires to live in you, to exist in you. And so this passionate new beginning that your guides want to say that you're stepping into, that you have available to you, that is love, that is partnerships, different types of relationships and partnerships and relating, and inspiration. And so they're saying, you know, like to see it is to believe it. To believe it is to start taking the steps toward being the kind of person that you want to be in relationship as. And that's not a mimic of the person around you. And there's no like condemnation here with the term mimic. Like, you know, I saw this in myself when I was doing magic this week, and I was trying to like free myself of like an ancestral energy, and I was trying to figure out that ancestral energy from the wrong seat, from the wrong kind of like channeling, you know, position. And this revelation over, you know, the way in which I was being a little bit puppeteered by that certain kind of like, you know, it was a journey. I learned a lot and I needed to go on it, but I needed to see like the way in which like a pattern of behavior that I had been taught, mixed with like a capacity for magic that was like off the charts, mixed with like, you know, add a little dash of like the empire's like, you know, keeping us from this information about how to handle our giftedness and especially our ancestral magic. You know, you end up with like these like strange vulnerabilities. And so like, that's kind of where we see you not getting nutrients. That's kind of where we see you not getting truly met, truly fed, truly seen, truly experienced, truly loved. And that can be hard. It can be hard to get to the place where you feel safe showing up like that. But this is in relationship to building a life where you feel more secure and more of your life is reflecting you back to you. So it's easier for you to even have a sense of yourself. And so there's like a big job here in terms of like the way that you have been able to operate and succeed in life and make your way through a system of oh man, it's like a dishonest harmony. The way that you've been able to make your way through dishonest harmony is to just, you know, phone it in a little bit with this. But there's a call for you to have the union and the relationship that you're destined for. And so with this King of Cups and this Ace of Wands and this Queen of Cups being about like, this is like such a big deal. This is so much love. And they want you to step into it, and they want you to know that it's there for you. They really do. They're like, I really want you to know what's there for you, that you have this. So you have to step into a desire to like want a certain kind of life, and that's tough. But the World card says like there's no turning back. Like there's no turning back to the old way of being in the world. That's what this Death card is, this life and death, this transformation. There's no going backward. There's only going forward. And so, you know, you're making yourself, you're crafting yourself going forward. And this perception card here in the third house, this is your speech, your social media. Sociability. Let me just feel this a little bit. Yeah, like if I jump on and off a little bit, you're not going to notice. It's probably going to seem like absolutely like nothing, but I have been like turning the camera on and off for a second here and there, just to get my bearings, because I am having trouble sort of like really understanding this message. There's a lot here that like seems very particular. This actually is coming through like almost like a personal read. So what I'm seeing here in terms of like that Lover's card and that third house of perception, like you coming into yourself and you having a good perception of yourself is also like synonymous with your readiness to kind of like be seen by the world. You have the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Swords, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Queen of Cups here on this in the spread. So that means mastery over all of these different, this is like Empress quality energy, but you have to come into an awareness of this. And the interesting thing about like that echo is like, I'm having a hard time like grasping it 100%, but because yeah, it's not for everybody, but I think that there's like, there are at least a few of you in the collective where like it's something. So let me keep going and let's get, so your guides do want to bring you into sort of like an awareness of your giftedness though. Like there's this area, there's a sense in which they're like, yeah, shape-shifting, and it's a way of reading, it's a kind of like cool oracle kind of a quality is awesome, but there's more here, and they want to sort of bring you into some of these other aspects of self and some mastery over that, because they want to allow you to channel with that King of Wands. They want to give you like the ability to channel in like incredible wisdom and incredible, like there's something that they want to offer you that will establish you in all of these ways. But the mastery, the self-mastery here is about creating the kind of life that can hold this success, first of all. And also this notion of like coming into a sense of yourself here. So there have been a lot of disorienting aspects of like the last couple of years, like maybe even like 4 or 5 years of your life. There have been a lot of like disorienting things that have made it so like all of that survival stuff that you've had to do. And your guys are saying like even before that, you know, putting you into survival mode, putting you into a place where you were defensive at all times, really just like kept you out of your own body and your own feeling space. And that survival mechanism of people pleasing is another way of putting it. You know, not that, I mean, people pleasing is, this is a kind of a spiritual, like superpower extreme kind of version of that. But your guys are like, when they bring you into some sense of your own like true giftedness and what you truly have and the way that you can like fully step into your life as you, they want to sort of look at some other gifts that you might have like to cultivate is basically what I'm seeing here. And so you are born with this magical quality, like this magical child is saying that you have magic. You know, you are different. You are not going to register. There's like an uncanny sort of valley, like energetic aspect to this where you're much more like heavily aligned with that which is like unseen in those unseen dimensions in one way or another than you are in terms of traits. So like this is kind of hard to explain because I don't want you to feel like there's something so different and alienating here, but there is this notion of you have a series of traits that sets you apart. It puts you at a distance. It puts you at a different perspective. Like there is something alienating about like the quality of traits that you have that makes you more of an observer of the environment that you're in than what feels like a participator, which is another reason why defaulting into like that echoing has happened, because you haven't really found your own like anchor with like interaction like in a broad sort of way. So there's a way in which like flying around at the surface of interaction is a lot easier than being able to like show up as yourself because you anticipate being misunderstood. And so your guys kind of want to work with you a little bit about that, because that's self-perception and how you show up in life and showing up as yourself so that you can get nourished as yourself, appreciated as yourself, judged properly. And that's not that you're putting on a show, you're not, but it's energetic. You guys are saying that like we're having a discussion about something that isn't like you putting on a show, that is like really perceptible for anybody who's looking at you. It's an energetic thing, like being in your own energy versus being a reflection of someone else's energy. Like, and that's hard to note. Like, that's not something that you're necessarily like doing on purpose either. So like this magical child, when we look at this, it's confusing because it's kind of like, how do you find yourself? Like, how do you show up as yourself? How do you see yourself? Like, and Spirit is saying like, you're getting closer, like you're closer than you've ever really been in one way or another. But you have like this is a really hard channel. I'm like having a hard time grabbing this. Every time I go to grab it, there's like a flinch or something, and I'm like, what do we do? What's going on? It's almost like the information is trying to hide. I've never seen that before. Oh, okay. So Spirit is saying it's probably something like there. It's a source of great shame, maybe. Something that you maybe feel a little bit ashamed about. Um, it's not disingenuous, and it's also not fake. Like, that's important for you to understand. But dishonest harmony is not something that you like. So there's a system that you have to adhere to and be in coherence with when it comes to like the outside world and public and socializing, and it calls for like, yeah, dishonest harmony. And you just don't feel safe in this world. Yeah. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. And so Spirit is saying, like, you know, when we think about like you having all of this potential, and the sacred beauty and a belief system that like allows for levels of things to be possible that wouldn't normally be, and like just like what that vitality and what that glow and what that Leo energy, because it's like a Leo energy that I'm feeling here with that shine, that glow up. Stepping into that is really difficult because you have had all of your giftedness weaponized against you in one way or another. But that doesn't mean that it's not there, and that doesn't mean that it's not of value, and that doesn't mean that you bury it alive with your, and you're just like burying something and then burying another thing and then burying another thing. And Spirit is saying, I want you to like show up in an array of these gifts. So what does it mean for you to show up as sacred beauty? And like let yourself really show up as sacred beauty, and allow for the possibilities of the things that you believe to like make manifest in your life. What does it mean to show up with a very big, like being very big? What does it mean to show up as the person who has an authority about the way that they orient toward everyone in the room, because their gift for negotiation and seeing things clearly gives them that authority, and not trying to sort of make other people and feel better and more comfortable in their status, but to actually allow that the authority is there for you because you've earned it. And so you speak with authority and you mediate. Like, what does it mean to so like fully be like, I own this. This is who I am. This is what I'm walking into the room with. What does it mean to walk into the room and really, truly like 100% show up and care about showing up for the people around you? That's hard. You know, the shadow attribute is that of as being people manipulating and exploiting and using. You know, there's a lot of that. And so like what does it mean for you to, yeah, so Spirit is saying like feeling centered, you know, about who you are, it allows you to show up in your own authority. Coming in with some kind of like agenda to like that, you know, everything's great and nothing's like, you know what I mean? There's this way in which like this center of gravity here with the mediator card and knowing who you are in terms of your own authority is important. But you also like, you don't want to not care about people, you know, because you're afraid of like the way it might be received. And so that's where like, you know, really showing up as yourself is being as giving as you are, like without any fear of how that gift is going to be received and then maybe exploited, because you have good boundaries. And so like there's this way of like, what does it mean to show up with this like propensity towards giving, but also with a lot of boundaries, and knowing that those boundaries will protect you so that you can fully express that giving nature. You have the mediator and the networker, which really speaks to you as being in leadership positions. And so like, what does it mean for you to think of yourself as being a leader, being someone who's like, you know, adept at sharing information and social awareness and empathy? Like wow, like look at this. You've got such cool cards here, because you've got the mediator, which is about, these are all social cards. So one of the first things that your guys are showing me is that you're social, and that if you think of yourself as being like a complete and total introvert, that's actually like not true. That's a mirage. That's a false precept. That's an echo of something that like, so like I'm trying to get a hold of like what this echoing exactly is. And I don't think I mean, it's just it's hard. It's very slippery, which is why I keep like kind of losing the channel even every time I sort of try to get a hold of it. It like freaks out. But this notion of like, you know, putting you into a position where you're afraid to be a social person, a leadership person, that's everywhere on this, is all of that shame. And so almost like where your gifts of like fairness and strategy, and authority have been used like by other people's ulterior motives to try and sort of like, you know, the fact that your giving heart has also been like led to you being depleted. Your ability to like network has also led to you being misrepresented. Your ability to trust the divine has also been, you know, used in terms of like things kind of scapegoating or trickster, you know, energies. And this notion of like your natural creative, the hedonist, like your beauty and yourself, there's a lot of not wanting to step into your power because of other people. So in the same way that like we can like be ourselves and determine to be ourselves and not care what other people think of us, we also have to understand that if we're allowing the disappointing behaviors of others to dictate how we show up in life, that's the same as caring about what every single person thinks of you. It's the same like submission. And so Spirit is saying, like, I really want to pull you out of that because you do have all of these beautiful qualities that makes you perfect for leadership and makes you perfect for leadership in community. And you are not an introvert to the extent that you're hiding inside. That's because of this echoing, and that's because of the effects of this echoing. And that echoing goes deep, and that echoing has a lot to do with like people in your life that when you were a child and when you were powerless, were very domineering and didn't let you have that expression and didn't accept you for who you were. And that rejecting has like left its sting of making it hard for you to feel like you could show up without 100 million things that you're doing to make like yourself worth showing up, and the right way to be seen and the wrong way to be seen, and the way to be protected and the way not to be exploited. Like there's so much here. And ultimately like you have a glow and you have a magnetism that is leading you toward like your purpose. You have all these gifts for a purpose, and that glow, that magnetism, that authority, that's something that like your guides want you to anchor, like not just anchor, but root into you. You have a right. You have a right to show up in life. You have a right to take up space in life. And you have a right to your bigness and your beauty. And so this is like this perception shift here in terms of that Lover's card, to step into what it means to like walk into that adult life, right? And to perceive of yourself like in that adult life as an adult, like operating from that adult perspective. Because like growing up like is a weird thing that's coming through with this reading. Part of like that maturity that comes with social opportunities to mature, opportunities to mature socially. Mean like that you have opportunities to be social and mature socially. Without those opportunities, there is a kind of like thing that happens where they can feel like I'm seeing somebody who feels much younger in years than they actually are. And so what your guides want to say about where you are right now in terms of building structure in your life that reflects you and stepping into this like role of the adult that you're going to be playing for the rest of your life. And even though there's a feeling of like, I don't feel the age that I need to be in order to do this, there is the desire to get out of the trap of feeling helpless, which is basically that's the road. That's the initiation, going from feeling helpless to feeling competent, feeling like and there is a lot that is at play there. But so much of this is like the brass tacks, like what it really comes down to is your own perception of yourself and your own perception of like what you're capable of in the face of the life that you are facing. And there is a kind of stark, you got to look at it honestly. You got to sort of like really have a good look at this, because you are being called into an acknowledgement of the mastery that you've already achieved and an inspiration as to how to move that into the world in a way that's going to support you. But it comes with this call into a vision of the adult self that you want to live the rest of your life as. And I know that's kind of asking for a lot, but then there is a kind of shift and a snap and a crackle and a pop kind of with this. But ultimately, like what we're seeing here is I'm being told that you don't want to accept the life that is your destiny. The old life has passed away, and there's a huge resistance on the new life that you're stepping into, because you're still not letting the old life pass away. In one way or another, it has a lot of say over what you think you're capable of, and what you think that the rest of your life and the quality of life is going to shake out to. There's a deterministic sort of referendum that we want to really, your guides are like, we really want to remove this from you. Because, what they brought through in the way of like a superpower that it was kind of weaponized against you a little bit. And they want to get you nourishment, and they want to get you connected, and they want to put you in community, and they want to put you in partnership, and they want to bring you into union, and they want to give you those opportunities to mature socially, because you are destined for leadership. You're destined for a social position. And this is something that you, mind, body, and soul, in one way or another, are like, no, thank you. I like to stay home all by myself in my room. And there's no condemnation there. Your guides are saying there is no condemnation there because of what you've been through and the way that life has had to sort of like, I'm seeing someone really being churned through it. But like the inspired new life is an inspired new life that happens outside of the confines of your current comfort zone. And that comfort zone is like your perception. And your perception of the world, perception of your place in the world, perception of what it means to like be in relation to others. And what we're seeing here is like a fear of loss as being the dominating motivator. And so I want to get a little bit more on that because I sort of want to get us over like the hump. You know, when we entered into this reading, it was like, I felt like I was pushing against like a closed door. Like I didn't want to open the door. And so there's a lot of resistance to this. And there's a lot of like, and resistance can take like a lot of form. You know, sometimes resistance takes the form of a contrarian argument. Like where you're like, there's this like rhetoric that kind of happens sometimes within our own minds and in our own souls, you know, along the lines of like where we're like, I really want to, you know, start like my, sewing business. Like I'm just totally like, this is just a random example. And then like there's a contrarian like referendum that comes in and says, you know, you always start something and then you don't stop it. And look at all of those other things that you haven't organized. And like, look at those, that, and that. There's like this, and there's a lot. Or like, maybe if like you had this and you had that, maybe if these things were in place, you could, like, there's a referendum that comes like there's almost like the role of the contrarian comes to like interrogate every impulse that you have. And that's also conditioned. So it could be conditioned by, there may have been like a person in your life growing up, or even like someone that you were in close relationship with. It could have been a marriage that they berated and it was like, it's like condemning. No, it's not quite condemning. It's criticize. There's a critical, like, so even when the critical voice goes, the pattern and the expectation and the shielding around criticism can remain, and you can begin to like fill in the vacuum of that criticism with like every voice you could possibly like get a hold of. Like when you start to think about other people, those other people could come to you in critical voices that are echoing. Again, we're back to this notion of echoing and replaying like something from the past or the way that somebody else used to speak to you. And so there is this notion of like freedom, bringing in independence and self-determination, and like the barrage of like, there's a condemnation that comes in, a contrarian energy that comes in to sort of talk you out of your own beauty, out of your own aspirations, out of your own worthiness, out of your own bigness of dreams. And so since you have a big destiny, and you do have a big destiny, like I'm feeling it very like acutely, and you have mastery over all these areas in your life, what's next is for you to put them on display and for you to be received in this. And so with the freedom here, the independence and the self-determination, that's going to be the part of you that like there is a part of you. And Spirit is saying, like, I want you to like, we're going back in time to retrieve a part of your soul that like was very ambitious. We're going back to retrieve the part of you that believed that like you had like, you could do all of these things and then overcome all of those things and have this said outcome. That part of you that had that drive, that had that passion, that had that ability to like start in one place and end up at another. Retrieving that person. And retrieving that person from the ruins of the disappointment of the life that person didn't get. And like really I'm seeing someone pulling a crying, hysterical, in despair person out of the ruins and saying, come on, we have to get somewhere with you. We have to get somewhere with this aspect of ourselves. That ambition needs to come back. I need to be in relationship to it again. I cannot have the contrarian, be the thing that narrates every aspect of my life, and every ambition that I have cannot be in despair. And so this transformation that's coming in around what you really want, part of it is like, first of all, maybe the reason why you don't feel enthusiastic about wanting anything new is because you don't really want those things. And that there's an aspect of the fallen life, the fallen tower that you need to resurrect. And it might be being held in good regard and having a public position and being in leadership and creating something like, because I see some social element here that's like alive and kicking, but it's up against the pricks of an energy that says you can't trust anybody. Why would you ever want to be social? You just have to stay inside. People are mean and cruel and competitive, and they are going to like come up against everything that you do with a fiction that they're projecting on you. Good luck trying to have a position in the world with all of that, high hopes and happiness and enthusiasm. They're going to eat you alive, right? That's like, your guide is saying, yeah, I get it. But why are you letting those people who are going to eat you alive define you? When you're meant to shine and garner attention and be at the head of the room in one way or another. That's the truth. And so, like, there's a way in which those people are running your life, that condemnation, those criticisms, those rejections, those humiliations are playing a bigger role in who you are becoming than anything else. And so your guides are basically saying, like, that's where, and you're retreating into, yeah, your guide's saying, like, the reason that the way this ties into the magic of coping mechanisms, or your magic being weaponized as coping mechanisms instead of being used as like ways in which you can be empowered. That shape-shifting ability is very, very useful when you're going into an environment that you don't know and that you need to figure out and you need to find your place in a safe way. Think about the time traveler who drops into a new place. How are they going to fit in immediately? How are they going to learn where they are? How are they going to find a way through? They're going to start to sort of like use that magic, but they can't get lost in that magic. And so you're getting called to not get lost in your magic as you unlock it. As you unlock your magic and as you interact with your magic, to not get lost in your magic, to not go into a sort of like codependent relationship with certain aspects of your magic to the exclusion of all other things. You have to grow more broadly. And so your beauty, your grace, your loveliness, your integrity, your form and spirit, this is something that your guides want you to sort of bring into relationship with your independence and your self-determination and your self-concept. And they're also sort of challenging. If you really feel like there's no inspiration in there, there's nothing that can inspire you, and there's nothing that's great, and I don't even care anymore, and like, why would I even bother? Because nothing is, because your guides are showing me that that's a very distinct thing. All of these gifts that you've had that have been so beautiful and so valuable have been like attacked in one way or another. Because I do see that, and your guides are saying that that's true. But the attack on your gifts has been the attack on your self-concept, your perception of yourself, which has been the attack on how you show up in the world, which has been the attack on how you even like show up to be motivated to be yourself in the world, because everything gets lost along those lines. And so as we retrieve our parts of ourselves, and you're being called to retrieve parts of yourself for this transformation, it's going to be about creating with that Capricorn energy, the kind of, like, your life needs to be a container for the kind of production and the kind of attention and the kind of abundance and the position and the regard in relationship. And your guides are giving you this opportunity to take this time and start to really build that. Because looking for yourself in others is like, it's something that your guides are like, we understand, because there's been these coping mechanisms that kept you from having that attack, like that ability to actually get like nutrients. And so like you're constantly hungry, constantly looking for nutrients in one way or another. Like that's a very real thing that happens when you're consistently misunderstood, and there has been that. But the world card here says we're stepping into a new world. You have mastery over all these areas of your life with the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Swords, and the Queen of Cups. And with that King of Cups energy here, the amount of inspiration that you are going to be able to like marshal into the world, if you allow it, if you're really standing in that place of divine feminine receptivity, and being able to like meet that divine feminine receptivity with agency and that part of yourself that had ambition and desire, like these are things that this is an alchemy that your guys are saying, I want you to plan to move into this. And part of what they want you to root into is a desire for independence and self-determination and all of these attributes that, you know, in proportion to your giftedness, like you have been like opposed. Always. The opposition is always in proportion to our giftedness. And so the opposition in your life is always going to come in the form of what is going to go against your greatest giftedness. And so taking your giftedness back from the contrarian, you know, and putting that giftedness with the independent, self-determined, like mastery that you really, really have is the shadow work that you're being called into. And it's about knowing yourself as beautiful and valuable, and about you instilling that within yourself, because there's just a lot here that Spirit wants to kind of work on. So let's get a little bit more, because I want some tools in our toolbox going into this week, because we're being invited to look at some of our coping skills and the ways in which our superpowers have been kind of like, without our really understanding, taken up by like coping mechanisms that are sort of put us into spins. Like this is, we're pulling us out of these spins, is also understanding that this is a fun process. It's not a scary or a spooky. It's redirecting your energy. It's like saying, where's my center of gravity right now? Is it in my own desire? No, I don't know where my own desire is, right? So like say that's the information that comes up. So then your next step, the tool in your toolbox then, is to think about what you might want, and everything that comes against that, and everything that rises up against that, when there's a contrarian thought, to like put that aside and like actively understand that it's an alchemy of bringing desire to your life in order to get you to move anywhere with it. Because you're not moving anywhere with your life without desire. That is the very first step of what is needed here. And we talk about that a lot, you know, like we really do. And so your guys are saying that like, they understand that this is like, it's not an easy thing. We wouldn't be coming back to this over and over and over again if this was an easy thing. But it is something that we have to master. This is something that has to be the final frontier, you know, between us and our, like, you know, where you are and where you want to be, the person that you are and the person that you want to be. And for you to get truly met, truly loved, truly assisted, truly understood, is to be able to very much like, yeah, I'm just listening because I want to kind of, you know, sometimes when our guides give us these pep talks, it can be really nice, but we want, I want to hear a little bit more about the tools in the toolbox, childhood trauma. Yeah, so this does, you know, entail facing some childhood trauma. We are facing the voices that say, no, you can't, no, you don't. And so how do you answer those voices? You know, your guys kind of want to put you in the place of like the way that you treat people, the way that you are with others, they want you to do for yourself. And so there is this contrary voice that you have that says, you know, I don't like your guides. It's like guide is kind of doing it, and I'm like, I'm not going to imitate. But there's this energy that says like, you know, I don't want to do this, that, or the other, because it's not going to lead me where I want to go anyway, because where I want to go is like yesterday, and yesterday's over. Something like that. Or like, this is, you know, I don't want that because I wanted that other thing, and that other thing is gone, and I'm not, there's a vengeance in that too. And so your guys are basically saying like, you know, what it means for you to begin to engage with desire. And let's take a look and see where they're going, because I'm losing it a little bit. I'm losing the thread here. In terms of a toolbox, so it's like your magic, and loneliness is the bottom of it. So your magic that you kind of use, like the magic of shapeshifting, the magic of echoes, the magic of reading and interpreting through that particular channel. It's a type of channel. Your guys are saying like, there's no condemnation in it. Just step into a new type of channeling. Start to play with new mediums with which to bring your messages through. New mediums like of even like they're saying, just like begin to tinker with, like, think about, yeah, let's try to get this right. Think about like when you're creating and working on your craft, and the painter who paints the same canvases over and over again, using the same methods over and over again. Your guides are saying you don't have to give away the canvas, and you don't have to give away the paints, and you don't even have to give away the time that you use painting, but you have to do something with this. They're saying like, change the format a little bit, like begin to create, but use different types of paint, different types of paint brushes, different types of techniques. That's what it means to not overuse that one form of magic. And so you're not giving anything up, and you're not even failing at anything. You're just picking up new techniques that you're going to add to like finding that authentic expression, right? And so with the childhood trauma, the family, the anger trigger, and the loneliness, like this is where, you know, your wounds are your vulnerabilities, and overcoming those wounds are also your superpowers. And so when we think about like your giftedness, and in proportion to your giftedness is the opposition, that's also your opportunity for healing. So when we go back to your giftedness, this is the ways in which you've shown up big in life and been shamed for it, right? And so if you have a good voice and you used to like to sing, or if you have if you just love to read all the time, and, you know, didn't want to be around anything else but reading, like there's all these ways in which like the loves of your life that you have to find a reconnection to. And so when we think about what are our lost talents, or what are our lost areas of giftedness, What are the loves of your life that you've had to break up with for various reasons? What are the loves of your life that you have been with? Like, why did the loves of your life take the form that they took? If they took the form that they took and that form is no longer available, what aspect of that essence can you like reconnect with? And that's tricky. It's going to be different for everybody. And that might even be hard, just like, you know, getting a hold of what that means might be something that you want to go to guidance for, because it is going to be different for everyone. But with childhood trauma, family and anger trigger and loneliness, like what has triggered you into a kind of seclusion and like limited your ability to have those opportunities to mature socially. This healing is taking place around this, in terms of you like taking the time to reconnect with who you are, love who you are, like form a relationship with who you are, and then express from who you are from a number of different ways in order to get a sense of your voice. That's like really investing and spending time with yourself and like developing that life. And I guess that this is all coming through in this way because part of what that development is going to be, part of what reconnecting with that desire is going to be, is exposing yourself, like having some level of exposure to the world. And that doesn't mean going up on stage. That can mean just in relationship to others, in what you're creating in the way of communication. It bears your authentic stamp, your authentic self. You're showing up in a way that is like truly, yeah, you guys are saying like knowing that you deserve like people around you that love you and support you and know you, and coming from a place that knows that you deserve that, instead of coming from a place that feels like you have to earn that in 6 different ways, or coming from a place that feels like if you don't get it 100% right, then you deserve like some kind of big rejection or something like that. There's a punishing aspect that Spirit wants you to overcome here when it comes to the things that have kept you like from going out, things that have kept you from really like entering into the world and being experienced. There are these stories that Spirit wants you to overcome. This was kind of hard message. I don't know if you guys have felt like how difficult it has been, like the coming out. It's been like one of the hardest, I think it might be the hardest message I've ever tried to sort of like bring through, believe it or not, just because it's absent a certain element of flow. And that's okay, because I think what I'm picking up in the collective energy is this notion of like everything. It's like all of the, I'm seeing the magician with all of the magician's tools out. All of the magician's tools are on the table, and like there's a new way to work with them. There's a new way to develop them. And it's a little bit, I see training wheels, it's a little bit wobbly, you know, getting a lift off. And there's also, you know, this reading from the ancestors has entailed a piece of information, a little bit of like mystery, school stuff related to types of magic and the way the types of magic operate. And I think we're going to be getting, you know, into that at a great deal too. Because it does seem to, it seems like some magic is like really related to coping mechanisms, which is part of what's beautiful here. There's a real beauty here. And there's something in terms of that mastery, but your guides are saying they want to bring you into greater levels of mastery, but with a greater variety of things, greater expression through like a greater avenue of expression. Yeah. And that's kind of, you know, like I'm going to get a couple more cards as sort of just like send off information. You know, just the feeling of this reading, it has a sort of like challenging aspect to it, but in terms of a toolbox, you know, this is about exploring. Your guides are saying it's about picking new things up, not necessarily about putting things down. And you're not going to give yourself a hard time, like either. You're everything that you have done, they're saying you've like knocked it out of the ballpark. You're doing a good job. Yeah, ancestors repeat and energized. So the ancestors are here and they love you so much, and they kind of really want you to know that. It's important for you to understand that like your self-acceptance in this process of becoming is crucial. And that means that like everything you've done, again, there's nothing wrong with it. The level of mastery you have, the magic that you do is excellent magic, but they want that variety there. They want to strengthen the muscles that haven't been used, what you need to hear. And they're saying this is what you needed to hear. And so when your ancestors come in to say like, listen, I know that we're saying these things, we're repeating these things, we're bringing these things in, but we want you to know that you are doing great. And that as you like explore all the facets of your being. They're there to help you explore all the facets of your being, and they just want to bring you into a greater giftedness. And they want to, as you plan your way forward, as you move from this transformation into the next phase of your life, there is justice in relationships and in position and community. And that's what they're preparing you for. And so like, this may be kind of a lot. You might be in this place where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel lost. I don't know how to function. You know, like there's something very fundamental about that feeling that made this reading very hard to push through. But your guides are saying, you know, I want you to begin to believe that you have a position and a place and a belonging, and that we're here for you, and that we're bringing you into a different type of coherence. There's no dishonest harmony that you have to, that's the thing. The dishonest harmony is the world's edict. It's the compliance that the world requires of you. And the fact that you can never comply in that way means that like you've adapted other ways of compliance. But your spirit guides are saying like, you're finally ready. You're truly ready to drop those crutches, those training wheels, and step into a self-actualization and a self-determination, and bring back that agency and reconnect with the desire, and then blast off, take off into blast off. And it's not this minute. Like there's still this Capricorn, like everything about your life right now is about like building the structure that will hold, that will contain what is coming through this. There is a lot of labor and a lot of birthing in this aspect. This is a laborious part of it. But you have the mastery and you just haven't put it to use. And as soon as you step into the world from this position of what's being built to hold you in that space, as soon as you step into the world, you're going to be stepping into the world with a level of mastery that you will then exercise that mastery, use that mastery, and really get to feel yourself as somebody who is rewarded, and somebody who is successful, and somebody who has really arrived. And so like that's there, and it's in community, and it's in relationship. It's all of those things. And so you guys are like, that's the good news. And the bad news is there's a little bit more stretching and more of this structuring and a relationship to structure that allows you to really move forward. And so that's kind of like we got a little lecture today. We get less in the way of a sermon and more in the way of a lecture. This was a very hard week. I don't know how all of you have been doing. I've been a little bit under the weather, I'll be honest. There's been some weather going on the inside. But I think that, yeah, I mean, I think I needed this message too. There is stuff that came through that's very specific, I think, for some folks and not others. And yeah, every once in a while we're going to have that with our collective messages, just because sometimes there's just an urgency, you know, with our spirit guides. This white stag is significant. So you have spirit saying you did something this week. You had a huge overcome a huge obstacle. You have cleared completely. Like there's something that has cleared out of your path. There's some obstacle that you've overcome. There's some stronghold over your life that you have, like, basically, I'm hearing that you did it. You did it. You finally did it. You cleared this. What's left is just a residual kind of like, it's like sloughing off. I'm seeing the snake sheds its skin, and there's just like a little bit of skin that you're still like sloughing off, but that skin that you're sloughing off is just like dead skin. It's nothing. And so you really are in a new form, and then just like there's a little sensitivity with that new form, but you've transcended whatever your former form was and whatever stronghold was holding you. And so like that's true. That's this death card, but you're in that. I'm seeing you emerge from the chrysalis. There's still kind of this part of the journey where you're feeling the wind against your wings, getting that muscle up. You've got to bring in some nourishment. But Spirit is saying you're getting ready to be able to take the lead, and there's a lot of abundance coming your way. Right now, this is leap of faith moment. Keep the faith moment. Like invest in faith kind of a moment. With take the lead, you're getting much closer. You're being called to take the lead in your own life. Take the lead in your own life. Step into that determination, that independence. Take the lead in your own life before you are placed in that leadership position. So Spirit is going to have you with that Capricorn Saturn energy. Be very like vigilant in taking the lead in your own life. When you have reached that level of mastery and taking the lead in your own life, it will go quickly. You will be given much. Much will be given. And so you're being encouraged to take the leap of faith, you know, further in this new direction, even if it feels wobbly, even if it feels training wheels. And that's that trust, you know, trust the mystery. So this was a rocky reading. I hope that everything came through in a way that was like super accessible. I'm going to go ahead and maybe put this up a little early. Sending love and blessings to all of you, and I will see you again next week.